Story 1. When developing the habit of running or exercising in the morning, I spent a couple of weeks just putting on clothes and stepping outside to establish that habit. The first step is the hardest, so focusing solely on that part meant that once it was accomplished, the rest became easy. Story 2. I switch rooms depending on the task. Writing, kitchen, emails, bedroom floor. My brain thinks it is a new job each time and stays alert. Is anyone else doing this? Story 3. This is specific to standardized testing for university applications. Register for a location where you do not know anyone. Nervous people tend to gather and chat before the test and during breaks, so they return to the test mentally exhausted. It is much more productive to get a drink of water, walk the halls for a couple of minutes to get the blood circulating, and stretch the shoulders. A stranger can do that undisturbed. Story 4. Having a resistance band around the legs of my work chair and doing leg extensions when I am getting distracted. Story 5. Setting periods of focus means deciding to work on a task for 20 minutes with full attention before doing anything else. Do not respond to emails, browse the internet, or take coffee breaks during this time. This approach helps you concentrate on one task and prevents time from slipping away. Story 6. What works for me is hating someone and wanting to do better than them. My grades were poor in high school until I developed a deep loathing for a girl named Ida. This girl was all about her grades. She was top of the class. I worked extremely hard for a semester just so I could casually lay my report card on my desk and she could glance over and see my grade point average was better than hers. It was worth it. She reacted strongly. It works in my professional life too. Nothing motivates me more than disliking a coworker and wanting to outperform them. I am a hater, not a lover. Story 7. Haha. Love this question. Here is one that sounds weird but totally worked for me. I started wearing real clothes like jeans and a button-up shirt while working from home instead of sweatpants or pajamas. Something about physically dressing up flipped a switch in my brain and made me feel more professional and focused. It is like tricking myself into thinking I am in a real office, even when I am just at my kitchen table. Bonus. I have read about people working with a fake commute by walking around the block before sitting down to work. Same idea. It signals to your brain that it is work mode. Story 8. A former boss of mine always said, before you start anything, think for 10 minutes about how you are going to do it, which has since saved me countless hours redoing work on ill-conceived ideas. Story 9. This one is a bit unusual. I came up with it myself and have not seen anyone describe anything similar. My method is to watch Taskmaster. Taskmaster is one of my favorite shows to relax and unwind to, but it has a few commercial breaks. When I watch an episode, every time a break starts, I use an online spinner where I list several tasks I need to complete: dishes, tidying, watering plants, cleaning, and so on. Whatever I spin, I have to do. Then I reward myself by watching a little more of Taskmaster before the next break. As someone who usually struggles to get basic tasks done, this works really well. Story 10. Not taking my shoes off when I get home from work tricks my brain into thinking I still have things to be done before I am allowed to take them off and relax. Story 11. Resting more often. Taking more breaks away from the computer. Not to do other things, but to just lie down with my eyes closed, doing nothing. Oh, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder medications. I wasn't able to actually rest during my breaks until I got medicated properly. Story 12. Quite honestly, 5 p.m. cutoff. I work in a very high volume and stressful environment with a massive influx of tasks, decision-making, and requests from my team, clients, and internal stakeholders. I was running myself into the ground working late, which was and still is the norm, and checking emails outside working hours. There was absolutely no work-life balance, and I was always on edge. The pandemic brought me back to reality. Now, I am forced to be much more efficient with my working hours and do not respond to calls, messages, or emails once working hours are over. Other coworkers are still working all the time, but my output is often the same or better because I am more rested both mentally and physically. Peace of mind is definitely something I will not give up. Edit. Also, I am actually taking a lunch break. Seriously, most people around me take a working lunch at their desk. Story 13. Inviting someone over is the best way to get the house clean. To get it spotless, invite someone you have feelings for. Story 14. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Here are some tips. If you are coming home and have something to do not take your shoes off. If you have to do something within a period of time, do not sit down. I saw someone recommend head torches, so I will include that. If you need to do something and you also need to urinate, use your urgency to urinate to help get the task done. Story 15. I used to be a communications contractor and had several techniques for running cable and performing various tasks. When other installers asked me how I completed the job so quickly by myself, I told them, and their response was always, "Oh, that doesn't work." Obviously, my methods worked because I finished the work quickly and efficiently. It would take too long to explain them if you don't understand the business. Story 16. There was a show in my country that supposedly recreated dramatic real-life stories. Nothing was real, but it was fun to watch. I used to watch it on one of my monitors while using the other monitor in split-screen mode. Funnily enough, that way I could finish twice the amount of work I usually did. Story 17. Tidy as you go. Train yourself to look around before leaving a room and pick something up that you can put away where you are going. Story 18. Every time I need to make an important phone call I have been dreading, I put on red lipstick. Something about it makes me feel more confident and professional. I have been doing this for 2 years now, and my anxiety about calls has pretty much disappeared. Story 19. Genuinely, having some kind of audio running can help. Depending on how mentally intense the task is, choose an audio feed that is the opposite. For basic hand tasks, go for something with lots of narrative and dialogue. For tasks that require a lot of focus, video game soundtracks work well because they provide ambient sounds and keep your ears occupied while allowing your brain to concentrate on what you are actually doing. It takes some time to find the best choices for various tasks, but it helps a lot. Story 20. Zero inbox. I have a rule that automatically sends emails that I am carbon copied on to the archive folder. I can review those when I am not busy. All emails directly addressed to me stay in the inbox until I process them and, once done, are also moved to the archive folder or deleted. I never have more than a couple of emails in my inbox at a time, and it is usually empty by the weekend. Story 21. I promise myself that if I work out or exercise today, then I can rest tomorrow. Every day, I promise myself I can take tomorrow off if I do it today. Story 22. Weirdest but surprisingly effective? Chewing the same flavor gum while studying and during the exam. It is called context-dependent memory. Your brain can link the flavor with the material you studied, boosting recall. It sounds ridiculous, but there is actual research behind it. I once walked into an exam smelling like a mint factory, but I remembered the Krebs cycle, so no regrets. Story 23. Believe it or not, the Pomodoro technique worked well for me when I was in college. Now, if I just set my heart on doing it for my chores. Story 24. I just tell myself, don't put off till tomorrow what I can do today. 60% of the time, it works every time. Story 25. Wearing shoes at home makes the brain think it is work time, not nap time. Instant productivity is a total scam, but it totally works. Story 26. When I have a full day that I need to fill with chores and tasks, I play a turn-based game on my computer. Between tasks, to catch my breath, I might play 1 or 2 turns. Then I get up and do something else. It is enough to help settle my mind, but not so much that I get absorbed. Story 27. One of my favorite productivity hacks is doing a favor for my future self. If I notice something that needs to be done and it only takes a few minutes, I go ahead and complete it right then, even if it is a small task. I think of it as helping my future self, so later on I can be grateful that it is already taken care of. It is a small mental trick, but it truly motivates me to get things done now instead of putting them off. Story 28. When trying to improve at keeping a tidy space and staying organized, I consistently say, put it away, not down, until I do. Story 29. Meal prepping the week's lunches on Sunday. I won't make lunch the morning of. I will go out to eat, get something not great, and not want to go back to work. Story 30. Make a list of the things I want to have done and work my way through that list. It is helpful in my job and around the house. Story 31. I put all my tasks on slips of paper in a jar. Then I draw one randomly and do it. It is like a game, and it makes things seem less overwhelming because they are broken into small chunks and not all in one long, scary list. Story 32. Putting on my gym clothes as soon as I get home from work. If I am already dressed, I may as well go work out. Story 33. Slightly harder surface to sit on and slightly lower temperature than is comfortable, but not enough to be unpleasant. This primes me to be productive or to get up and take a proper break to unwind. Story 34. Made a deal with myself that I can only listen to my favorite true crime podcasts while cleaning or doing mindless work tasks. Now I actually look forward to filing paperwork because I get to find out who the killer is. Story 35. Getting up and going for a walk when I am stuck on something. Alternatively, just doing something when I am having a hard time starting a task. Story 36. I turn off as many notifications as I can. I find that there is nothing so important that I cannot just check every hour or so. Story 37. Just get started. You do not have to finish or even do very much, but later it will be easier to jump right in because you have already started. Knowing full well that once I start a task, there is a 99% chance I will go ahead and finish it. Yet I fall for it every time. I am very easy to trick because I am much smarter than myself. Story 38. House chores or apartment chores should take no less than 30 minutes. Relatively speaking, 30 minutes out of your day is not the end of the world. Story 39. Doing chores and other unpleasant tasks early in the morning means you do not have to think about them for the rest of the day, interrupting your relaxation or fun. Story 40. Pretending to be incompetent so that someone will step in and do it for you. In my case, I am incompetent though. Story 41. Shoes on, brain on. If I put my shoes on, it feels like I am getting ready to go out. So, if I am working from home, I tend to concentrate better with my shoes on. Story 42. Listening to audiobooks with headphones on is helpful for activities like doing dishes where it is harder to hear. Putting on shoes or keeping them on after arriving home until tasks are completed can be beneficial. Story 43. Close your eyes, forget comfort and everything else in your mind that stays rent-free, and just do it. Story 44. When I lack motivation, I make a list of 20 items. Some items are fun, like eating or going for a walk, and the rest are work tasks that need to be done. Then I use a 20-sided die until there are only a few items left that I can do quickly, and the workday is done. It works every time, 60% of the time. Story 45. It may sound silly, but I race against my kettle boiling to see how much cleaning I can get done. It is a fun way to tackle chores and keeps me moving. Story 46. To finish my thesis, I found a picnic table that had a wall socket where I could keep my laptop charged. I would go for a drive, pack my bag with many library books, load up on snacks, park about 500 meters away, and leave my phone in the car. If I reached a point in my essay where I needed the internet to check a detail, I would mark that sentence with an asterisk to check later and continue writing. I have also found the Listonic application helpful for coordinating to-do lists with my wife. Story 47. Remove Instagram, Reddit, Facebook, and any other social media icons from my screen so I have to search for them and then turn notifications off. This way, I have to actively look. I stopped looking at Instagram for a week and didn't even notice. Story 48. Serious answer. I went on a time management course early in my career. I was highly skeptical going into it, but walked away with 2 life lessons I stuck with throughout my entire career. The first was the only things that really matter are the high-value tasks that you complete. Low-value or incomplete tasks are not really worth that much. The second lesson was even more profound. The greatest source of interruptions to your work is yourself. It was at that time that I realized looking for a new set of animated cursor icons might not actually be the most important thing consuming my workday. Story 49. If I'm going to watch a podcast on YouTube or listen to something while browsing Reddit, I transfer to my phone and try to get some general cleaning done. I set an alarm for every weekday at a time when I am usually not busy. It reminds me to do some chores, even minor ones, for a few minutes. I do not always listen to it, but I definitely do many more chores than I did before I set the alarm. Story 50. Since we are talking about hacks, I found a way to automate most of my code with little input from me. I can code entire sections of my projects in about 30 minutes, where manually it would take days. Story 51. Writing in Comic Sans. Because I don't take it seriously anymore, and that makes it easier to start writing. Story 52. Reframe to-do lists as, it would be nice to do lists, and make one for the week or the month, updating it if needed. This approach removes guilt. Story 53. This may sound simple, but it works. I like to listen to audiobooks or podcasts, but I can't just sit down and listen because then I get too bored. I could put them on during a chore, but starting a chore you don't want to do is difficult. So I tell myself that I'm going to do a chore so I can listen to the podcast or audiobook. Switching it around like this makes a world of difference to me, and it works especially well when I have just reached a thrilling chapter. Story 54. Make your bed first thing in the morning. It starts your day by completing something small but important, provides a simple reward for your brain, boosting your mood, and allows you to spend the day knowing that when you come back to sleep, it is ready for you. Story 55. Jumping in the deep end whenever inspiration or motivation hits because I know it is a valuable resource and should be taken advantage of whenever it occurs, which for me is often in the middle of the night. Story 56. Zero inbox. I have a rule that automatically sends emails that I am carbon copied on to the archive folder. I can review those when I am not busy. All emails directly addressed to me stay in the inbox until I process them and, once done, are also moved to the archive folder or deleted. I never have more than a couple of emails in my inbox at a time, and it is usually empty by the weekend. Story 57. Telling myself I can quit in 5 minutes, then forgetting to quit. Basically convincing myself to be productive. Story 58. To-do lists. We do not sit down until everything is crossed off. Make them the night before so we both agree on what needs to be done the next day. Story 59. The 1, 2, 3 rule. If I am doom scrolling and want to stop, I count 1, 2, 3, then suddenly get up. It works. Story 60. Instead of mentally forcing myself to do a project or something, I just tell myself I will look at it for a few minutes, and that's it. Most of the time, I get in the groove and just keep going and work at it. Story 61. I sing the song, put one foot in front of the other, to encourage myself to take one step. Suddenly, momentum takes over. Story 62. Displaying my current daily screen time usage as a pop-up over other applications. I cannot stick to application blockers or timers, but seeing it increase while I am using my phone disgusts me and makes me put it down. Story 63. Habit stacking. If you have a new habit that you want to stick with, pair it with something that you do automatically. For example, I wanted to work out more at the gym at my workplace. To do that, I had to pack a gym bag and bring it. Now, each morning when I get dressed for work, I pack my gym bag. Another example. If you want to take more vitamins, you can prepare a cup of them while you are brushing your teeth. Story 64. Taking breaks at work. Not working during lunch. Getting up at every break. Never working from home. If they say a certain amount of time is okay to read news sites, I am doing it. If there is a metric they track, I am gaming it. Story 65. I started narrating my tasks out loud like I am on a cooking show. Weirdly, it keeps me focused and entertained. Story 66. Notebooks, Filofax, sticky notes, and similar tools have not worked long-term for me. But the one I have been using for years is a scrollable widget on my phone's home screen. It was first Google Tasks, but Google made a version of it in Google Tasks. If it had been just an app, I would have forgotten to open it, but the widget is always there, and the topmost task is the most imminent one. If a task is past due, it stays on top. It serves as both short-term and long-term memory for me. That is the most successful method, but the strangest is maybe needing a beer to really get going. Story 67. Telling myself I only have to work for 5 minutes. 99% of the time, once I start, I just keep going. Getting started was the real battle. Story 68. Just do it. Yes, just drop everything and do the task when you think of it. That was the only approach that worked for me. Story 69, being slightly high for it. By slightly, I mean close to microdosing tetrahydrocannabinol. Felt like a mild Adderall. Story 70. My best time to work out is early in the morning. The night before, I set my clothes in the bathroom and prepare my gym bag, so it is grab and go. When I wake up, my rule is that I cannot use the bathroom at home until I go to the gym. I live close to the gym, so I do not have to wait long. Since I am there and dressed, I might as well work out. Story 71. Working in a formal outfit at home. No meetings, no reason, just dressing like I am about to close a deal somehow tricks my brain into doing things. Story 72. The now method. When confronted with a task, ask yourself if you have any reason not to do the task beyond, I don't want to. If that is the only reason, do the task. Simple and effective. It is kind of strange how often my resistance is simply apathy. Story 73. Color coding. Yes, that's how we spell color in the United Kingdom. Blame the French. When using Adobe Premiere Pro, Adobe After Effects, Microsoft Excel, or even just using highlighters on a paper calendar, using colors to denote different items has been a massive help. It cuts out a lot of searching and makes things more visually coherent. Story 74. 45 to 50 minutes of continuous focus, followed by 10 to 15 minutes of mental reset. It did not work in the office because you always need to appear busy, but there has been a significant productivity shift since moving to remote work. Story 75. I condition myself to work by listening to a specific song. It is high energy and I still love it. Sometimes, when I do not want to listen to it, I choose other high-energy songs that put me in a motivated mood. I am serious. Condition yourself with a song, a movie in the background, any noise, anything that helps you focus so that when you hear it, you associate it with putting in the work. The downside is if it is a popular song, you may not be able to hear it outside without feeling like you have to stop relaxing. Story 76. Keep a low profile and limit productivity so more staff are hired. In your work setting, this is an anti-sweatshop movement of freedom that, in silence and secrecy, benefits the worker. After all, the company and your boss will never be your friends. Money is their god and friend. Story 77. When I'm glued to my phone or neglecting a task, I'll just kind of scream in my head, like a general AGHHHHH, until I get up and do the thing. For some reason, it seems to work almost like a battle cry. It does help me get out of a doom-scrolling session. Story 78. I spend 1 to 2 minutes listening to personalized statements before a big meeting, and it instantly shifts my mindset. It feels like a cognitive enhancer. Story 79. Keep a metronome running in the background. Every 20 minutes, have a gong sound. Telling time without a clock makes you much more productive. Story 80. I stopped watching series and used the time I gained to build a second career alongside my full-time job within 3 years. Story 81. To-do list. Everything goes on a giant one, and I pull priority tasks to the top along with a few small ones. Everything else I push out of sight. I complete the visible tasks with no internal negotiation. If something is hard or I am avoiding it, I break it into smaller steps and push some steps to tomorrow. Many times, my biggest hurdle for difficult tasks is not knowing what they are or how to do them. So the first step usually becomes, just search online and try a rough dry run. The dry run becomes acceptable many times. Story 82. You do not have to reply to everyone at the office as soon as possible. Choose wisely who really deserves to interrupt your thoughts. Also, block your agenda with a meeting with yourself. It helps in professional and personal life. Story 83. I know it is going to sound strange, but I found an interesting way to overcome my failure to complete work on time. If I have a task that needs to be done within an hour, I set a rule for myself and say I will donate 1% of my vacation funds to a good cause. I have found that this approach has worked wonders in improving my productivity. Story 84. Writing lists. Just jotting my tasks down for the day helped keep things in order. During the pandemic and unemployment, it became a way to mark the days. Even if the only items on my list were lunch and walk the dog. It helped tremendously. Story 85. Showing up to work very early. If I work from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., it feels like I have to be there just to be there. Show up at 3 a.m.? I'm not there to waste time. I find the things I have to do and get them done. When they're done, I leave at lunch because I have already worked 8 hours. For some reason, being at work during non-work hours is very good for my productivity. Normal work hours are fine, but I'm not as pressured as I am when nobody else is there. Story 86. Sit in boredom when you feel you are or about to waste time when something should be getting done. Sit with no phone or distractions. Sit as quietly and calmly as possible. Eventually, you will get bored, and that task will seem a lot more exciting to do. Story 87. Using artificial intelligence to gather specific data I need on any given topic. Infinitely faster and of higher quality than what I could do myself. Story 88. 5 things and only 5 things rule. Whenever I have a large amount of tasks that feel overwhelming, I employ what I call the 5 things rule. Every time I get up, I do 5 things. That can be 5 dishes, 5 items put away, or 5 whatever, but I must do 5. I can do more if the motivation strikes me, but I only must do the 5. I literally count out the dishes and do only those 5. It does not complete everything, but each time I do 5, it chips away. I often do more than 5, but I give myself a break if it does not feel good. There is no rule that says you have to do chores until they are completely done. You can do just 5 of them at a time throughout your day and still feel like you got to be a potato most of the time. Story 89. If I am getting up to go to another room, I grab anything lying around that belongs in the room I am going to and put it where it belongs. This is especially effective if I am going to the kitchen. Story 90. Vivance. I completed my degree unmedicated and struggled greatly. In my second year at a real job, my doctor prescribed me Vivance, and it changed my career trajectory. I was promoted multiple times and more than doubled my income in under 2 years. Story 91. My whole life growing up, I was always told to start with the hardest task, whether that be chores or schoolwork. I have found that starting with the easiest task first is a lot like doing warm-up laps before running a race. Story 92. Getting up early. I absolutely hate it. I'm a night owl type, but when I get up early at 6 and start working at around 7, I am much more productive in the time until lunch than I would otherwise be during an equivalently long afternoon session. Story 93. Get a set amount of work done and reward myself with a walk around the site and car park. Catch some rays and get some air. Story 94. 2 things. Think carefully before doing anything. I will do my best during my 8-hour shift. Once I stopped following these rules, everything went wrong, and I will be taking a mental health medical leave in 2 weeks. Story 95. When I was preparing for my master's exams, I used to think to myself, I will get up to eat when I finish this chapter. There is no better motivation than food. Story 96. Stimulant medication. There is nothing in the world that has helped me as much as Ritalin. I wish it were not so controlled and stigmatized because, although it makes me more irritable, it helps me keep my house clean. I think many people have undiagnosed attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and even those who do not would benefit from it. Why does coffee get a pass? Story 97. I use reverse psychology on myself. If I have something I need and intend to do that day, my brain decides it wants to do anything but that. I have a fun idea and just launch into it without hesitation. So I started purposely intending to do a fun thing, which makes my brain latch onto the things I actually need to do. It works, but I wish my brain would just be on my team. Story 98. We had a slow period at work, so we were encouraged to improve our skills with online tutorials. I made a personal rule that I had to finish a bottle of water before I could complete each chapter and that I could only use the bathroom between chapter breaks. I finished them very quickly. Story 99. A flashlight headlamp. I have ADHD and had to do some serious deep cleaning in my apartment. I found that using a headlamp flashlight greatly helped me focus on what I was doing. Since my ADHD is attracted to bright and shiny things, having something that makes everything I am specifically looking at bright and shiny is very helpful. Story 100. For me personally, A healthy lifestyle means doing sports even when you are very tired. If your body is in good shape, then your mind also starts to work much better. Story 101. If you are working on a project and encounter an obstacle, step away from your desk and do 100 deep knee bends. Story 102. Buy a new wallet or get a haircut. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and for some reason these two things work to give me a dopamine hit reset that lets me focus for a bit. I have about 15 wallets now. Story 103. Listening on repeat to a documentary on Netflix that makes me feel very calm and peaceful. It increases my work rate about 3 times and reduces the need for breaks. It is worth the Netflix subscription just for that. Story 104. Do things in threes. Laundry, vacuum, dishwasher, that's a power clean. For me, work, photo shoot, dance, and bed, that's a power hour. Before you shower, clean the bathroom. Atomic habits add up. Story 105. I once heard the saying, if it feels like work, you are doing it wrong. Now, I strive to find innovative ways to accomplish the same tasks to keep them from becoming monotonous. Story 106. Working in complete silence with a hoodie on makes me feel like I am hiding from my responsibilities while doing them. It is strangely effective. Story 107. I put meetings in my calendar for work I need to do so my day is structured the way I need it. Before I did that, it would fill up with people scheduling calls. I also try not to take meetings unless there is an agenda. Story 108. Leaving my charger in the next room forces me to stop endlessly scrolling and actually get up. It breaks the cycle every time. Story 109. When at work, I focus on being productive. I participate in some office conversations, but I concentrate on making all work time efficient. I am a further education and higher education teacher. When students are working independently and do not require assistance, I focus on my own tasks. This approach has helped reduce the time I spend planning and marking at home. I still need to find a better way to name and organize resources because I often end up reinventing the wheel. I have also organized my house to streamline leaving for work. I leave the bathroom with keys on the hook, then the next hook holds my coat and hat. I walk through the kitchen and place my bag on a hook. I leave the front door with everything I need. My house has an unusual layout. Story 110. Keep your shoes on. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and I swear, taking your shoes off is the way to instantly kill momentum to get chores done. Story 111. Sleep deprivation temporarily alleviates mild to moderate depression. However, once you fall asleep, the cyclic adenosine monophosphate levels balance out and you wake up depressed again. Story 112. When I get to my office, my phone locks down and only lets me text and listen to music. I can't even use the search engine or open a browser. I had a habit of thinking of something and then needing to search for it or look up something or quickly pay a bill. I was very distracted all the time. Now, as soon as I park, my phone goes into work mode and stays that way until I leave the parking lot. Story 113. When working from home, I put my phone outside the room. It is in the hallway right outside, and I can go get it if I want or need to, but usually I do not. When I get the urge to pick up my phone, I realize it is not in the room, and I go back to the task I am supposed to be doing. Story 114. Timing myself to see how fast I can clean or complete tasks because I am under pressure to work faster. Story 115. Momentum. Even just brushing my teeth or sending a simple email makes me more likely to do more challenging tasks. Story 116. Deleting all social media and all the social applications from my phone. Temporarily back on Reddit as I am planning a trip, but otherwise, I am amazed at how much happier and more productive I am away from social media. Story 117. I tricked my brain by telling myself I only had to do a task for 5 minutes. Somehow, I always end up finishing it. My brain is like a stubborn toddler, and this is my reverse psychology parenting method. Story 118. Working on a plane or train does the trick. No internet, just pure focus, especially on long-haul flights. Story 119. My mantra is, something is better than nothing. I don't have time to clean the whole kitchen, but I can wipe down one countertop. A 10-minute workout or walk is better than sitting on the couch. I don't have time to fully sweep the house, but I can sweep the cat litter out of the way a little. I don't have the energy for a full shower, but I can do a fast rinse off. Many people get discouraged if they can't do something fully. Focusing on something is better than nothing can help you get started or maintain aspects of your life when things get busy. Story 120. Waking up several minutes earlier and going to bed that much earlier to fit in time to work out. The fact I am up early has been enough motivation to always do it. Otherwise, why am I up so early? It would be a waste to do nothing with that time, so working out became part of my normal routine that I have to do. Story 121. Adderall, music, and a repeating timer to take a gulp of mineral water every 15 minutes, which also acts as a priority check on what is on my plate that needs doing. And sleeping at least 9 hours a night. 8 hours is some corporate nonsense marketing. It is not enough to reset. Story 122. At the end of my workday, I make my to-do list for the following day. It sits there waiting for me and helps me focus right away instead of wasting the first hour or so. Story 123. I will put on jeans. For me, jeans are like a signal that I am leaving the house, and it switches my brain from relaxed to active. If I really need a boat, I will put on shoes too. Story 124. Throwing my phone across the room. I'm naturally lazy, so I can't be bothered to get up and retrieve it. Story 125. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder hack. Your brain might crave novelty, and introducing it can kickstart your executive function. Need to do a boring task on your laptop? Sit in the empty bathtub and do it. Constantly struggling to do laundry? Find a new podcast to listen to while you do it. Keep an assortment of different colored rubber gloves so you can change it up while doing dishes. Find a way to introduce newness to tasks. Story 126. I write to-do lists with a pen that is starting to run out of ink but is not yet empty enough to justify throwing it away. Using the pen is so annoying that I will accomplish more tasks just to use it up faster. Story 127. If the work can be done in under an hour, I would drink a large amount of water and start working on it with the rule that I cannot use the restroom until it is done. The anxiety and pressure to use the restroom, followed by the urgency, make me very productive and focused to complete the task without getting sidetracked. I have obviously cheated a few times. Story 128. I do not think in sounds, so I can hold a conversation while reading or writing at the same time. I am very productive in meetings. Story 129. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, so this is what works for me. I know it's to trick my brain, yet it still works. I put on music around 154 beats per minute, which is best for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder productivity. I set a 30-minute Pomodoro timer cycle, 30 minutes of work, followed by a short 5-minute break. I repeat 2 more times before taking a long 10-minute break, then repeat if necessary. I also use the Flora app, a free version of the Forest app, set to only allow opening messages, and Spotify to change the music. Story 130. Mint chewing gum. I learned that in early grade school while doing those standardized tests. Story 131. Wearing shoes inside while working from home instantly tricks my brain into thinking I am not allowed to lie down or cry on the floor. Story 132. Sing. My brain has to focus on the words when I sing, so it stops me from getting distracted by anything except what is directly in front of me. Story 133. Talking to myself, full-blown, out-loud conversations. It's like being your own coach and therapist in one. There is something about saying things out loud that makes your brain stop and listen, pulls you out of the overthinking spiral, and gives you a mini reality check. Story 134. Don't work for now, work for tomorrow. It's a mantra I made. Throughout my 20s, I was always overwhelmed with deadlines. Deadlines this, deadlines that. I never felt like I actually got the hang of anything, but I realized, thanks to freelancing, that it's the way of thinking about deadlines that changes things. I started setting my own work schedule to be done well before the deadline. For example, if a deadline requires something to be submitted by a certain date, I usually have it basically done before then, through editing and approvals. It seems simple, But many people look at a deadline and think, I can do that, I just have to take it slow, and then end up rushing at the end. It's much more satisfying to reach a Friday morning realizing you have no work left to do for the week, and all the procrastination you wanted to indulge in earlier can now be done without dread. Story 135. I made 7 metal pucks. Think hockey pucks, but the size of a quarter. Each morning, I write my to-do list for the day and set aside 1 puck for each task. Throughout the day, I build a tower with the pucks, adding a new one for each task I complete. It is a variation of the marble jar method. There is something about precision-made, solid chunks of steel that fit together. Story 136. 1. Doing the tasks I dislike most to reward myself with the more enjoyable or less disliked tasks. Do anything that takes less than 5 minutes immediately. Your mental load will decrease drastically if you do not have that email you still need to send roaming through your head. Story 137. Using a lower power setting and a longer time when microwaving lunch is recommended. 6 minutes is plenty of time to empty the dishwasher while waiting for the food to heat up. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.